know that. And, Gabe's brilliant. Then we'll talk to Ken Williams, and he's co-host of the Vic Porcelli Show. And that'll be I mean, jammed already. And then we move over to Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. And he's going to give you the forecast because you want to know the forecast. And then in the 3 o'clock hour, we are going to be talking to the author of Reagan's 9 Lessons for Trump in Pursuing Peace Through Strength. And his name is Dr. James S. Robbins. And I'm very excited about that as well. So let's begin with Gabe Pfeiffer, host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Co-host, pardon. How are you?
You know what time it is. Good afternoon, Crane. It's been a while since we actually got to talk.
It has been a long time. And when we talk, we go on and on and on because I got so many questions for you. I got so many questions for you. All right. I want to go out of the gates because let me set this up. The Trump administration, Matt Gaetz withdrew. Supposedly that was because Trump said, you got to withdraw. I thought that was the great move. I thought he was underqualified and I thought he was reckless. So good move. And then he comes right back out with Pam Bondi, a former AG for the great state of Florida. And the response to Pam Bondi has been hysterical. And that begins with MSNBC talking about Pam Bondi and how she's going to actually do the job. And it's because she's competent. I would think those are good things. So if we could pull that up from MSNBC and roll it. All right. And we will hear that
for me. I'm going to pull that up right now. Sorry.
Okay. No worries. We're getting producer Emily, always in the house, always good. But
I'm holding down the fort right now.
Yes. What was fascinating to me, Gabe, is you have somebody who's clearly qualified. And now they're upset because she's qualified and they're scared she's actually going to do her job. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's kind of typical. And part of the reason I think is really they're just expressing their fear. Their fear is that, the good things that are on the Trump agenda that was voted into office pretty overwhelmingly across America, those things are actually going to come to pass. They're not just going to be things to discuss on the Sunday morning shows. They're going to be talking about what has happened in the fallout of these things actually happening. And I think that's really what scares them. They want to argue about all of the ideas that the right has. They don't want to have to deal with the reality of the right getting their way, because it's been a long time since we've gotten anything really, really done. And Trump is one of those unusual candidates who's actually managed to accomplish a lot of the things he promised during his campaigns. And, they saw that in 2016 through 2019 or so. And they're worried. They're worried that now that he knows how it goes, picking administration officials and trying to keep out the people who are going to undermine him, that he's going to go all in, and they are very, very worried.
And there's the divide between the party, the Democratic Party right now, on how to interpret this election. And you have some people that sound like Baghdad Bob with this idea that somehow we just didn't communicate effectively. We should have had more time. We are in a situation where we could have won. It was based on our policies, but it wasn't based on our policies. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, it was based on your policies and you all need to change. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's there's been a lot of gaslighting, even on the left amongst themselves, not just to us and the American people about what they're all about. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they are unwilling to relent in their total push towards this crazy socialist backwards utopia that they think they can bring about. And it's kind of hilarious to watch, really. It's almost, they get into these little conclaves and they kibitz about what went wrong during the election, and their conclusions tend to be something like, well, maybe we just didn't call them Nazis enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean,
yeah,
it
it's like,
really
yeah, you
is.
guys are dumb.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of when what was the show where they Intervention? Did you ever see that?
Oh, I've
Intervention. It
heard
was a
about it.
yes. Okay, I used to watch that religiously. Probably not healthy, but the fact is, I did. And the person would be sitting there, and they would just have person after person saying, "You're drinking or your drugs are impacting us, and here's how." And their life is an absolute shambles. I mean, it is horrific what has taken place. And all they want for the person to do is acknowledge it and then move on to a treatment of some kind. Okay. And I'm not mocking addiction in any way. I think going through the challenges of that and having to overcome it is amazing. And you get some of the best people in the world who've overcome something like that. But what I'm getting is the idea that our ideas just weren't heard enough. The economy didn't pick up in time. And again, the denial, and I think it goes really to something that is within the Democratic Party. The loudest voices, the most shrill, are furthest to the left. And they've owned the airwaves and they've owned the agenda. Biden wasn't supposed to do that. He says bring people together. Okay, yeah, that's nice. All right, Dorothy. Let's see about the wizard, okay?
Yeah.
Because it's just not going to happen, right? So you have this
Right.
situation where they're still sitting there and they're defending transgenderism and saying they're going after like Nancy Mace for putting up the idea that a man can't go into a woman's bathroom or a locker room. And I mean, the polls show us that this is, I think, 70+% of Americans look at that and say, hey, no. And I'm just wondering about the other 28 or 30%
Yeah.
who are not there. But when you see that, and you're going to have a battle here because losing is not going to change if they don't get the message.
Right. Yeah. I think intervention is probably the best way of describing the situation America is dealing with the left right now. The left has gotten drunk and high on the power that we've been giving them in our culture for decades now. They think they are invincible. They think they can reshape reality around themselves, and they're causing all kinds of destruction and hurt throughout the country because of those beliefs. And America said, hey, you're actually hurting us. This isn't good. You actually can't change your gender. That's not a thing. And mass immigration is going to tank everybody's fortunes in this country. You can't do that. And the left is just kind of sitting there, like, I don't see what you're saying. I don't understand. I think my life is great. I think my ideology is perfect. You just don't understand me. And it does feel like that sort of situation.
Here's a part of the hysteria or the idea that they're criticizing the AG, the nomination, because she's competent. Mm-hmm. This is amazing. Check out this montage. Roll it.
Pam Bondi is, without a question, qualified to be Attorney General. She's been a prosecutor for 20 years in Florida. For 8 of those, she was the Attorney General of the state. That's a very big, very complicated job. And that level of experience is on par with or better than most United States Attorneys General that we've seen over the past 50 years or so.
And it continues, and she says, or excuse me, they go back and forth. We should all fear her because she's competent. She actually knows how to do this job. She knows what she's doing about immigration. She is dangerous and effective pick. She is a dangerous and effective pick. And again, I'm thinking to myself, okay, you have a 2-tier justice system. You have the weaponization of certain departments. You have parents being investigated because they attend a school board meeting. You have really gone off the rails, and there is a number of things that we could say about Donald Trump and the prosecutions of Donald Trump, the pursuit of that, and we all saw that. But I'm saying it's bigger than even the president. It's going to the people and saying there is a problem here with Lady Liberty, because her blindfold has been torn off and she has a look at political enemies and the weaponization of these institutions. So I'm thinking Pam Bondi is fantastic. And even if I don't agree with the election in the sense that, let's say, my person lost, that being Kamala Harris, all right, I'm thinking that why would it be a bad thing if the attorney general stuck to the law? Gabe?
Oh, well, I guess maybe that's the problem is when the left makes progress towards their utopia that I described earlier, the crazy socialist messed up upside down world. When they make progress, they don't believe in giving up any ground to go back. They don't believe in compromises. They just want to continue their march forward. So anyone who could competently stand in their way, who could actually roll back the progress, quote unquote, that they've made in weaponizing the justice system, maybe hollowing out the bureaucracy where they've got all of their people kind of set up in these positions, so it doesn't matter who's at the top. Anybody who can threaten that status quo is a major impediment to their continued progress. So they don't see the competence in that regard as a plus. They see it as a minus because it's going to take things back to before they got power, and that's one thing they can't have.
It reminds me of a fighter who has a glass jaw. And I always said this about President Obama because he had to defend his agenda. Not the fact that he wasn't at times charismatic. Absolutely. I get that. He's a good speaker. But he obviously has the self-confidence that he feels he can do just about anything. Obviously, he can win a Nobel Peace Prize
for doing nothing.
Serve, doing nothing. So, but you have that, and I think with the mainstream media, your ideas are not really challenged because we have a 2 + 2 = 5 scenario when it comes to talking about economics in our country. And you're pointing this out, this idea that their ideas are not challenged and they're in their own power circles, and yet they should be challenged by the fourth estate. They are not. And when somebody does, they're scandalized in some way because they've gone off script. They have Hollywood, and we see everything with the narratives in Hollywood and producing movies, and the actors, I guess they're getting paid at times, and some are, full-fledged, not in touch with reality. And so that reality goes into the ring and breaks that glass jaw, and that glass jaw and that whole fight was this election. And I'm thinking, how do we get this back? Because it's not just the entertainment. It's not just the fourth estate. It's our institutions of learning. And we've got a bunch of nut bars graduating from college with degrees in lesbian basket weaving. And I'm saying that with nothing against lesbians or basket weaving. I'm saying it's not a very good direction, and I don't think you're going to make money at it. And if you have a student loan, it's going to be tough to pay that back. Okay, so you have that, and these are the people that are, quite frankly, on campuses acting like modern day Nazis. And I hate using the term Nazi, but it applies here. So Gabe, I just gave you a big bowl of soup, buddy. And I'm going to throw it to you. And I'm going to say, how will the Trump administration and this election be effective in dealing with that, whether it's school choice or the economics of funding? Your thoughts?
I think the one thing that sets Trump apart from the others is that he's not beholden to the machine at all. He has no further ambitions. He has no allegiances to anybody who exists in the machine right now. And because of his clout, because of the amount of electoral power he can wield, through the MAGA movement, essentially, and the results of the election showing that he managed to create sort of a red shift in every demographic across the country. I think a lot of the politicians who may have been the ones to sort of stand in the way of him getting his agenda done may be on notice that it's not going to fly this year. It's you can't just make the promises, pretend to deliver, pretend that there are these impediments in your way, and not do what you said you were going to do when you got to Washington, D.C. So my hope is that the bully pulpit under it, the truest of bullies, the best kind in Donald Trump, can actually get things going in Washington, D.C., where we actually do make progress in the right direction by pulling back the size, scope, and weight of the government, divest power out of the executive by sending these various institutions back to the states, outlaw some of the craziness that's been going on in the indoctrination centers around the country, or at the very least make it unpalatable or not profitable to continue doing these crazy things like transgender surgeries on children and all that stuff. If he can make that kind of progress, he can actually get us on the right some of the first true wins in terms of small government and conservatism in basically decades. And that trend could then continue. We could he would set the stage. He would create the template for future Republican administrations to continue to do the same.
And I think you're right, Gabe. I think he is going to be able to do this. And I see that in the nominations for the cabinet positions that he has. These people are great communicators. And he knows it's all about he's got the right answer, and he'll have success if the policy is implemented. But it's about going through the false narratives and fighting things that are not true, the hysteria whenever the left gets a sense of government cutting funding or reforming something. They lie about it. They come up with, Paul Ryan throwing Granny off the cliff and that kind of thing. It's hysterical, but he needs good people that can communicate and understand media. And there's something going through most of his picks. And I'm thinking, yeah, they all get this. They all are effective on camera and with their speeches and communicating their ideas. And I remember a president who was called the great communicator, and my heavens, he won the Cold War. So,
oh yes, he did.
Yeah, I think this can happen. Hey, Gabe, would you stay with us, because Ken Williams is coming on? Do you have time? And if you don't, I know I put you on the spot.
No, I absolutely do have time.
Awesome.
Yep,
Gabe Pfeiffer is going to continue to join us. This is Colombo and Company. Crane Durham, guest host. That's right. Don't worry. Fear not. Tony will be back Monday. I'm just filling in with Emily right here at News Talk STL.
Come out, Virginia. Don't let me wait.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Or join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
"Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL."
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
So this is a super exciting time for the outdoor community, with hunting season in full swing, trapping season underway as the temperatures drop. Still a great time to get out there and go fishing. And Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois can help you with great products and services in all of these areas. Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's there on Broadway. Also, this coming weekend, the weekend after Thanksgiving, is their Black Friday sale, with just great offers across the board happening in basically every department there at Bluff City Outdoors. Also, don't forget about the Bluff City Outdoors show every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. and Sundays at noon right here on News Talk STL. Don't miss the Bluff City Outdoors Black Friday sale this coming weekend. Learn about all those offers, all those great deals on the various products. Best place to do that is by following Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook. Check out the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page.
Looking for a top quality tactical gear and expert advice? Look no further than Discount Tactical, your one-stop shop for all things firearms and self-defense. Located in the heart of Warrenton, we've been serving the community for 3 years with our friendly, professional, and knowledgeable staff. From custom AR builds and silencers to the largest selection of parts, we've got you covered. Self-defense weapons, SBRs, knives, ammo, custom holsters, weapon lights, optics, and body armor. Discount Tactical, online at discounttacticalarmory.com, or stop by today and gear up with confidence.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
Ready to explore the underwater world? Great American Divers, your veteran-owned local scuba center, is making waves with incredible offers. Get $50 off any new open water course when you mention News Talk STL. And mark your calendars. November 8th and 9th is our massive fall sale. Everything in store on sale, plus our huge swap and sale event for quality used gear. Daddy certification, equipment repairs, we got it all. Our experienced staff is passionate about teaching, and we're the only center in the area with our own indoor heated pool. Visit GreatAmericanDivers.com today. Great American Divers, where adventure runs deep.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL, live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
When musicians wrote songs, oh, I miss the 70s, 80s, and 90s. The 80s, the greatest decade ever. Winning the Cold War. It was a beautiful thing. 2 terms of the great Ronald Reagan. Yeah, it was awesome. By the way, winning the Cold War, yeah, that wasn't Gorbachev, okay? Gorbachev had to surrender. He went through his existence till he died as a commie. Think about that. That's bizarre. 2 + 2 = 5. I mean, what? This stuff doesn't work. I mean, you saw it in the 20th century. Hey, this stuff doesn't work, and there's a butcher's bill. I digress. You're going, who is this guy? I'm Crane Durham, and I am guest hosting for the great Tony Colombo right here on News Talk STL. And yeah, I brought a posse. I don't know what that all means, but I will tell you, I brought one, and you are going to be very, very happy that I did. We have Ken Williams, who is co-host of the Vic Porcelli show right here on News Talk STL.
Hi, Crane.
I know the show and everything. Ken, great to be with you. And we have Gabe Pfeiffer.
Hey, Gabe.
The smartest man I've ever met. And he is co-host over at In the Morning. Pardon me. This is when I read a script. I'm like Biden. Mike Ferguson in the morning. And I know Mike Ferguson, and he does a great job. And Vic is fantastic, and it's a wonderful lineup. And I'm so psyched about the fact that we're Soros free. How cool is that?
Well, Crane, I'm glad you said that the 80s were the best decade for everything, because Vic he thinks it's the 70s, and I'm the 80s guy.
Well, I come down on your side, obviously. I can understand, because the fruits of the 70s were felt in the 80s with policy changes, but I digress. We go here. Ken, I want to play for you all something, because sometimes I think I'm nuts. And you're like, yeah, really? Yeah, it's true. I think I'm nuts when I watch Comedy Central and I go, who the blank is watching this crap? Because it's so awful. And you know, like Trevor Noah and everybody, and they have this big voice and they have an audience laughing. And I'm like, seriously, I know I'm out of touch with the new generation, but I've got to tell you that this stuff is just not funny. And Jon Stewart sounds like just an old man taking back soup at the local diner. He's angry and he doesn't make sense and he's intellectually dishonest. And I think he's done a whole lot of bad. Again, I'm digressing. I want to stick to the point. Come on, Crane, get with it. Here it is. I see a segment on Nancy Mace and transgender bathrooms. Pretty simple, right? Men can't go into women's bathrooms, even if they say they're women. Okay? Basically, if you have the plumbing, you can't do that. You just can't go in and do that. Men out of women's spaces seems pretty easy, yet the Daily Show thinks it's bizarre. Roll it.
We've all heard the official story of the 2024 election. According to the pundits, the Democrats were obsessed with woke they-them politics that didn't connect with voters, while Republicans were talking about real issues that affect people day to day. So now Republicans are in charge of both houses of Congress. So let's hear about the economy.
On Capitol Hill, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson took aim at Democrat Sarah McBride, the first trans member of Congress. He barred transgender people from using the Capitol complex bathrooms that do not align with the sex assigned at birth.
Okay, forget about the economy. I guess the national mandate was making it harder for this one woman to poop at work. And by the way, who appointed Mike Johnson as the king of bathrooms?
Under House rules, the Speaker has general control of facilities in the chamber.
Oh. I guess he's the king of bathrooms. Pardon me, Your Majesty. Government is weird sometimes. This guy is second in line for the presidency, and he also has to refill the soap dispensers. Anyway, so now Sarah McBride, the first trans congresswoman, hasn't even started work yet, and she already has to run around the corner to Starbucks to pee. But the point is, Sarah McBride is not the one pushing this issue. The whole thing started because of one congresswoman, Nancy Mace, the Republican from South Carolina, where things must be running so smoothly that she can devote all her energy to this.
I'm going to fight like hell for women and girls to keep men out of women's private spaces, to include bathrooms, restrooms, locker rooms, changing rooms, you name it. You are not welcome.
If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Come at me, bro. Or bros in this case.
Yes.
I don't love her bigotry there, but I do respect her dedication to getting her steps.
Bigotry! Okay, let's stop the madness, okay? Right here and now. I'm going Susan Powder on you. Yes, you who like the 80s will understand that and love that. The deal is this. I ask you, Gabe Pfeiffer, Ken Williams, I ask you guys that what is going on in the world where somebody can be considered weird and for not wanting men and women's bathrooms. Help me out here, Ken.
Yeah, I'll start off. But first of all, it's hate comedy. It's not even comedy. And Vic refers to this all the time. When they're clapping and not laughing, they're just agreeing with you. They're not necessarily laughing because it's hilarious. And the other part of this, Crane, you've got the left who's trying to continue this whole wokeism thing. And I hope personally that they continue it all the way through to 2026 and 2028, because it's going to hurt them in the long run. America has spoken with a mandate to Donald Trump and his team to get rid of this stuff. We don't need this stuff. And I thought the left were the ones who were wanting to take care of women. Well, this is a big concern for many, many women in this country. And what she's talking about, what Nancy Mace is saying is not, you can't go into the bathroom. He has his own, his name's Terry, I think. He has his own bathroom in his office. Okay. They do have they have unisex bathrooms. It's not like he has to run down to McDonald's to go to the bathroom. But what she's saying is there are women that are very insecure about men walking into their domain. And that's all this is about.
Yeah. Gabe?
Yeah. Remember when feminists actually cared about rape survivors?
Yeah.
And, you know, because that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a woman who's been assaulted by a man, not wanting somebody with twig and berries jangling around in the locker room on Congress. Capitol Hill. So it should be the natural feminist reaction should be, you know what? Women's spaces should be just for women. I think that should remain the thing. We fought for women's exclusive spaces. We fought for women sports and things like that. But no, right now the current ideology, the current download to all of the NPCs out there is that trans women are women, so they have to stick to their line. But the other aspect.
Gabe, hold up. I got to ask you this because I absolutely agree with both of y'all. Have made some great points. But here's the thing. People are saying trans women, when somebody says they're a trans woman, they're a man, are they not?
Yeah.
Yes.
But go ahead, Gabe, because some people are sitting there going, well, they're a woman now.
No,
no, they're not. No, every cell of their body would attest the opposite. So that's what they call science.
XX.
The other aspect of what you heard there in the clip was this very interesting tactic that the left likes to use when the right pushes back on their crazy social agendas. They basically say, they'll grab a book full of cartoon versions of fellatio and put them in front of a 7-year-old and say, "Here, kid, be sure to read up on your homework." And the minute the parent says, "Hey, wait a minute, what kind of bullcrap is this?" They say, "You are weirdly obsessed with what 7-year-olds are reading." It's basically a weird shaming tactic. They bring these cultural fights to us. They want to change our institutions. They want to change the way we think about something as fundamental to human interaction and human society as gender. And they want to make it an issue. And then when we say we don't like what you're doing with this, they say, you're weirdly obsessed with it.
Yeah.
You know what? Forget you guys.
Well, Crane and Gabe, this is their tactic that they use for everything. Think about this for a second. They called us election deniers. However, we could play 24 minutes of them election denying from 2000 to today. But we're the ones who are the election deniers. I mean, that's their modus operandi. That's what they do on a daily basis.
And it's such a good point, because going to that is the deflection, and we don't get to the issue is never the issue. And it really poisons the entire political debate. Thank heavens we've got a fourth estate willing to call this crap out. I mean, they're amazing. Out on MSNBC, they're going to call it out. CNN, they're going to call it out. Obviously, I'm joking, but the fact is, people have finally learned, hey, media bias, as Bernard Goldberg charted and wrote about in the 90s, another great decade, frankly. The 90s, when you have media bias and stories being so slanted, they're so corrupt. And I think people have woken up to that because they went so over the top with President Trump that they couldn't ignore it. They kept on saying Hitler and everything else. I'm sitting there going, they basically fried themselves because they got arrogant and they didn't humble themselves. They actually believed their own nonsense, as you all were talking about earlier.
Well,
Ken?
Well, let's talk about the media for a second. It's a brave new world of social media actually being the news. And when I say that, you had an issue with the View this week saying something about Matt Gaetz that was incorrect. It was a lie. Okay, bottom line, it was a lie. And they had to correct themselves. And they made a big deal out of it, saying, well, all of our people had heard the right thing. We are the people who battle against mis and dis and malinformation. However, they only had, I think, 2.3 million viewers total, and all of everything that they're involved in on streams and everything and on television. Whereas Joe Rogan, okay, they made a comment about him and some kind of weird slur about him loving dragons. Well, he has over like 30 million people that are listening to him. So who is the media today, guys?
That's a great question.
Fantastic. Go ahead, Gabe.
No, I was just going to say that it's, things like X have become, formerly Twitter, have become these aggregators of news and information, such that, we're actually getting a sort of realistic view of what people are discussing, how they're discussing it, and we're able to make the decision about what we believe about it. So I can't remember what the show was or who the guy was who was doing this analysis, but he showed the difference between, pre-Elon Twitter and post-Elon Twitter in terms of the political leanings of the main posts that would show up. And prior to Elon, it was like 60, almost 70% left leaning, and now it's about split evenly, which certainly more closely reflects the actual conversation that's going on in the country.
Yeah.
So reality is kind of when you open up and you let freedom reign in these spaces, especially when we're talking about free speech. Reality kind of exerts itself, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And it goes to the point that their attitude is, I think, as generally speaking, conservatives go, they don't want to silence their opposition. They want to have a fair discussion because they realize that you can't deny facts and there is absolute truth. And I sit there and I think, okay, what has their response been? It's been to silence people, to cancel people, to use social media, to really destroy people's lives and misrepresent them. And so often, like, for example, you would think immediately when somebody said, hey, I'm a man, but I identify as a woman. I'm going to go into your locker room or I'm going to go into your bathroom. Now, you don't have to be Gloria Steinem to sit there and go, oh, no, you're not. Okay. It's not going to happen, because when you do that, you're saying it's terribly illogical. It obviously is a threat. And it's so outlandish. And yet people were afraid because they get canceled and be called transphobic. I mean, this is a mental illness. If you go to the DSM-5, it's still mental illness here. And so we pray for those people. But bottom line, you're dealing with something that is so absurd, and yet it's taken this long to stop.
Well, I think the biggest problem we're having right now is misinformation, but it's not necessarily all on the right. I mean, they'll tell you, they will actually, AOC will tell you that the social media needs to be regulated against misinformation. Now, when you say that, all you're saying is the First Amendment doesn't apply here. And that's the fact. And when they say I'll go back to The View, they say the same thing. They will tell you in public. Leaders on the left will tell you in public that, yes, there needs to be regulation on speech. No, there doesn't. You need to expose everybody for what they are. Free speech means everybody can say in my opinion, this is my opinion now, people can say whatever they want to a point, and then they're exposed for what they are. If you've got a racist on social media, for example, a white supremacist, okay, expose them, let them say it, let them speak it, because then you know where they are. But if you start hiding everybody's speech to regulate it and call it misinformation, that is not the First Amendment.
Ken, I got to correct you, though. This is what the vice presidential nominee said, Governor Walz said, that in fact, there are laws against hate speech. Are you telling me that there's not laws against hate speech here in the United States? I know they're in England, but the fundamental misunderstanding of the First Amendment here, guys, isn't that what we're dealing with?
Yes, but who decides what is hate speech? There is, and even then, though, you can call it out.
That's the thing.
You can call it out if it is hate speech.
Yeah, Ken, that's the thing. There's not a law against hate speech.
No.
And so as I sit there and I'm thinking, okay, Gabe, we're sitting here in a situation where we can engage the opposition ideologically, and it's very hard not to win based on the substance. It is, because we don't believe 2 + 2 = 5. We understand human nature is not something that progresses. We're just as fallen as we've always been, just as much greedy, everything else there. Your thoughts, Gabe, on how do we advance the ball further here or back to where it should be when it comes to these discussions and the First Amendment?
The number one thing, and this has always been sort of my agenda, my particular bugaboo, is that we need to recapture the major social institutions, and I'm talking about K-12 education. I'm talking about colleges and universities. I'm talking about the media, and I'm talking about entertainment. Those areas, they used to have a bent towards the American exceptionalism, common general beliefs about America and human society and things like that, and adherence towards absolute truth. It used to have all those things, and that's what created all the progress that got us to where we are now. And since the 60s, essentially, there's been this slow roll, this slow turn of turning these places, these various institutions into indoctrination centers where they can create little compliant and unthinking activists.
Yeah.
And that's what we keep seeing right now, kind of coming out of all of those institutions. TikTok's basically the latest version of media or the various institutions that are creating these little activists who don't know anything. And unless we recapture those, we're not gonna get this ship back in the going in the right direction. And it's gonna take a long time.
It's going to take time. I mean, we're going to have to get those people back on college campuses, and we're going to have to see the fact that speech and debate is embraced. And last question for you all, because I think this really defines the conservative movement and where we are on things, silencing our opposition or engaging them. And that is, if we were to have this conversation, which has been awesome, by the way, thank you so much. I mean, it's just wonderful to bounce ideas off each other. But I would fully welcome a liberal to come in and engage and talk about things, and not just 3-1. We'll go 3-3. But my point is, my instinct is to say, bring them on. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Well, as far as Vic and I are concerned, we always offer that up. And I think one of the problems is at this moment in time, now 10 years ago, it might have been a little bit different, but I think this moment in time, the left has nothing. They have no good policy. They have nothing that they can sit in this room and say, America wants this. Everything that they support, everything that they're behind is something that America does not want. Open border, we can go down the list. Okay. And even their economic theory is not correct for this country. So I don't think they could sit in this room with us for very long unless they want to call us some bad names.
Yeah. I mean, my dream world would be basically conservatives and libertarians arguing about how low our taxes should be.
Yeah,
that really should be the reality of the people who are in governance. But of course, there are always going to be the liberal types, and their speech is often going to be such that it appeals to particularly the people who are disaffected or who fall through the cracks of society or who are jealous of people with success, and they're going to meet some measure of electoral success. But I would much rather have those discussions with the good-natured. In our show we call them the decent Ds, the decent Democrats, the people who are a little trepidatious of the far left, who are currently controlling the neck of the Democrat machine right now. The decent Ds are out there. They're just cowed into silence right now. I'd much rather have a discussion with those guys. The far left crazies can go jump off a bridge.
So that is Gabe Pfeiffer. He is a co-host on Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Ken Williams, co-host of the Vic Porcelli Show. And you just heard why News Talk STL is kicking some tail. And do they still say that, by the way? Is that
yeah.
Okay.
That's
All
hip.
right.
That's hip, Crane.
Yeah, because I've always wanted to be
the kids still say that, right?
Well, now we're cooking with gas.
That's my actual favorite catchphrase.
Yes.
I'm really cool, by the way, too.
You're
so.
cool.
You are cool. See. Anyway, it's been great talking with you, and thank you for taking the time on this Friday. Absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Hey, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, guys. God bless.
Yes. We'll be back with Steve Templeton from Channel 4. I've got some weather questions.
Just find a place to make your
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Great friend Congressman Eric Burleson on how we're going to make America great again at 5:20. Dr. Aaron Hedlund on the latest Bidenflation bust.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
Hey, I want to remind you about our friends at Intervine.com. Great local family-owned business that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available on the market. All different sizes, from the very state-of-the-art heavy-duty stuff for the outdoorsman, or if you just need a smaller flashlight or headlamp for your home or your vehicle. Great products across the board at Intervine.com. And right now, you can take advantage of a great offer by using my name, Tony, as your promo code at Intervine.com. You will get 25% off everything. All the flashlights, all the headlamps, all the lanterns, and they have batteries in all different sizes, so you can even stock up on batteries for 25% off. Check it out at Intervine.com, Intervine. Use my name, Tony, to get 25% off at Intervine.com.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
The Republican Party of the City of St. Louis wishes you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, no matter how you celebrate the season. Join the City of St. Louis Republicans for their annual holiday party, December 18th at PH Rose. There'll be a silent auction, raffle, and plenty of holiday cheer. Go to stl-gop.com to get your tickets and learn more. The City of St. Louis Republicans wish you a joyous holiday season and a prosperous new year.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC, Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
Replacing your roof is always a big deal and a big decision. That's why I want you to call my friends, the folks that we've trusted with our homestead, Eureka Contracting and Roofing. 636-938-ROOF. That's 636-938-ROOF. They are veteran-owned, over 30 years of experience in the construction and insurance industry. They'll replace 100% of your roof, siding, fascia, and gutters. They'll come to you with a personal consultation. Give them a call anytime that Mother Nature strikes you. 636-938-ROOF. Available 24/7 at eurekacontracting.com. That's eurekacontracting.com.
Steve Templeton's Weekend Forecast, brought to you by Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor for all your roofing needs. Visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER Roofing.com.
And welcome back. Crane Durham sitting in for Tony Colombo on Colombo and Company right here on News Talk STL. Right now we are joined by Channel 4's chief meteorologist, Steve Templeton, and he's going to give us the weekend forecast. And to me, that is fantastic because we always want to know about the weather. Steve, welcome.
Hey, it's what we're working for, right? Working for the weekend.
Yes. It's true. And I got to tell you, this may be, maybe you hear this every now and then, but my wife and I will turn on weather and learn about weather because it's so fascinating, but also because we've seen so many storms as of late. Do you find that? Because I understand that, you know, the major part of the newscast, most watched, is oftentimes the weather.
I'd like to think so. Well, also, our weather's so crazy, right? You know,
yes.
I mean, our weather can be really crazy, and it keeps us on our toes, and hopefully keeps people curious, keeps me employed too. Although the good news is we have a pretty nice weekend. The big thing you need to know about is it's going to start cold and get warmer. So I think it's going to really improve as the weekend goes on. We're still pretty chilly, obviously, today and tonight. We go down to low 35, cloudy skies tonight. But we're going to slowly become partly cloudy, then mostly sunny Saturday, and a high of 53. So after 2 days with highs in the 40s, 50 sounds pretty good, and that's back to near normal for Saturday. Again, dry. Sunday, partly to mostly cloudy, but a high of 66. How nice is that? So nice little warm up, a little more cloud cover Sunday, and maybe a few light showers Sunday night into early Monday morning. Much of the day Sunday is going to be dry.
Steve, I got to take this moment to thank you for your storm coverage over the years. Our family, my family, was watching and just being directed, and you would give us updates on each county as a storm grew closer. And I think that I speak for a lot of folks out there who say thank you for being so diligent and so knowledgeable about what's about to happen and giving us that information.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me, and mostly it means you trust us, and thank you for your trust. I appreciate that.
Thank you, man. Well, have a great weekend. It's good to be with you. And take care. It sounds like we're going to have a great weekend in St. Louis.
Yeah.
66 degrees. That's nice.
On Sunday, that's going to be great. Yeah, no storms, no sleeves rolled up. We're good to go. So enjoy the nice weekend.
That sounds great. Thank you, man. Great to be with
Take care,
you.
Crane.
Take care. All right. So that's Steve Templeton, chief meteorologist. And I mean, we were glued. And you talk about knowing the weather. That guy's like the Peyton Manning of weather. And I say that because he's the quarterback. He understands it and he directs the information. I watch a lot of weather, folks. Nerd alert. I know, I do.
The Peyton Manning of weather is.
Yes.
That's a great analogy.
We sat there and my wife and I and the kids are sitting there going, okay, do we get to the basement? Do we not go to the basement? You know, back and forth. And you see, and they have it really nice color coded, you know, red and all that.
Very visually appealing.
Yes.
It's funny.
Absolutely.
Last time the sirens were going off, I like live in the basement floor of my college house basically. So I'm like, I'm not moving at all. I'm good to go right here. And I definitely did not move. So, really always, good to have those though. I remember when I was a kid, I'd watch them and it would make me feel good when I knew what was going on.
It makes you feel a little more secure.
Exactly.
That you, have some idea because it's weather, you know, and it's powerful. You know, Mother Nature, don't make her angry. You won't like her when she's angry.
For real.
So, yes.
For real. That's a hip thing.
For real?
That's
Yes.
Unfortunately, I had to inform Crane that we actually what was it from the last time?
You rock?
Yeah.
Or the other one was kick tail.
Yeah, nobody, but it's okay.
No, you don't say that anymore.
No.
I used the term midget the other day.
No, you can't say that. You just said that on air. No, I'm kidding.
I know. And now,
I think it's Munchkin. No,
I get it. Munchkin.
No, I'm kidding.
Maybe he's more precise.
With the Wizard of Oz coming out.
Yes. I didn't mean it as a slur, but it was talking about Hervé Villachez and Fantasy Island. There was a show way back when. And Emily, I've just talked through the generations there. Do you follow me?
No, I didn't get any of them, but it's okay.
The plane.
I know Gilligan's Island.
Well, hey, you can start there. We'll grow from there, Emily.
We will.
Okay. Fantasy Island was a little dark at times. The Love Boat was fantastic. I digress. We've got a great hour coming up for you next hour on newstalkstl.com, Colombo Company. And I'm just glad to be part of the company here on Colombo Company News Talk STL. Coming up, Dr. James S. Robbins. He wrote a piece in the American Spectator about Reagan's 9 lessons for Trump.
If you're buying or selling a home, you want someone that can operate both in Missouri and Illinois and won't tie you down to a contract. That would be Jen and Rodney Warner, the Warner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway. I strongly encourage you to call them because they have flexible commission plans to meet your needs. They have so many approved home buyers, they can guarantee you an offer. And again, being licensed in Missouri and Illinois, they've got the area covered. No obligation, no long-term commitment. Again, if you're simply not happy or you change your mind, they'll let you out of the agreement. Call them, 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. The reason the Warner Home Selling Team is so successful is because they are successful. Call them. Find out for yourself. 314-810-SOLD. The Warner Home Selling Team, Berkshire Hathaway.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention Newstalk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention Newstalk STL for 10% off.
Transform your space with JML Interior Design in Clayton. For 32 years, local woman business owner Jeannie Lashmet has been creating stunning interiors that reflect your vision. From residential to commercial, kitchens to corporate spaces, JML Interior Design brings expertise to every project. Planning a home remodel, tackling new construction, or the expert commercial interior space planning service. Jeannie and her team deliver great designs that work. Call 314-453-4233 or visit jmlinteriors.net. JML Interior Design. We just don't dream it,
We do it.
KLGY HD3 Clay, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
From townhall.com, I'm John Scott. House Speaker Mike Johnson is very concerned about this week's International Criminal Court arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his former defense minister. On the Salem Media Group news program This Week on the Hill with Tony Perkins, Speaker Johnson says the U.S. needs to take a firm stand against this action.
We need President Biden and Chuck Schumer in the Senate to stand up right now and declare that this arrest warrant cannot be acted upon. We have legislation that's pending there, bipartisan legislation, to counteract this. And so far, Chuck Schumer has not put that legislation on the floor. They need to pass that. The president needs to get out on his international platform and say, enough is enough, and we will not stand for this.
Speaker Johnson's full interview will be broadcast this week on the Hill on radio stations this weekend, and also at 10 a.m. Eastern Time on the Salem News Channel. Also at townhall.com, foreign policy expert and former U.S. Senator Jim Talent of Missouri says he expects President-elect Donald Trump to use a negotiated settlement to end the war in Ukraine. Bob Agnew reports.
Talent says Donald Trump wrote The Art of the Deal, so when it comes to ending the war in Ukraine, it's
classic carrots and sticks to him.
And he says Trump knows Vladimir Putin may be ready to make a deal after nearly 3 years of war.
This has been a strategic loss for Putin.
But will the president manage to convince Putin to cut his losses and restore peace?
I don't know, but the Trump administration was pretty good at that sort of thing in the first term.
Former Senator Jim Talent spoke with the Salem Radio Network. Bob Agnew reporting.
Health officials confirming bird flu in a California child, the first reported case in a U.S. minor. This brings the reported number of U.S. bird flu cases this year to 55. On Wall Street, a higher finish, the Dow up 426 points. The NASDAQ added 31. More at townhall.com.
Hi, everyone. If you or someone you know were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma within the past 20 years, listen up, because you could be entitled to significant cash compensation. For years, the weed killer Roundup was used in homes, farms, and gardens, and now studies have proven a direct link between Roundup and this deadly cancer. So if you or someone you know have been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, call us and find out if you qualify for a cash settlement. 800-842-6060. That's 800-842-6060. Time to file a claim is running out, so don't delay. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can find out if you qualify for a monetary award. Call 800-842-6060. That's 800-842-6060. 800-842-6060. Call now.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center, may not be available in all states.
A new deal on
from the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A weekend warm-up on the way, but first, another chilly one to round out the work week. Winds not as strong or as gusty today, still noticeable though. Morning clouds with just a few breaks of blue this afternoon, a high of 48. Partly cloudy, seasonably cold tonight, down to 34 for the low, but after that chilly start, hey, the weekend looks good. 54, mostly sunny Saturday, increasing cloudiness on Sunday, but up to 65 in the afternoon. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL. Brought to you by Jewels on Hampton, paying some of the highest prices for your gold, silver, diamonds, and more. Call 314-752-5000 or visit jewelsonhampton.com. Fox News commentary.
Matt Gaetz has withdrawn his name from AG consideration, and it was the right move. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hey, Donald Trump Jr. here. Central banks are buying gold at record amounts, and the trend is accelerating in 2024. They see the writing on the wall. The dollar is failing. Is gold the answer for you too? To find out, get a free info kit from Birch Gold Group by texting the word SHELTER to 989898. That's SHELTER to the number 989898 to get your free info kit from Birch Gold, the only gold company I trust right now.
Message and data rates may apply.
has officially taken his hat out of the ring of consideration to serve as Donald Trump's attorney general, citing the distraction his nomination was from the goals of the incoming administration. This was the right move. The ethics report, coupled with Matt Gaetz' already controversial reputation, would have made the confirmation process an uphill battle that was not worth fighting. I also find this withdrawal to be strategically sound, and I'll tell you why. Gaetz was such a controversial nomination that whoever Trump selects as his next choice will have a much easier time getting across the finish line. It would be hard to find anyone more controversial than Matt Gaetz. Don't get me wrong, Democrats are going to hassle anyone and everyone Trump puts forward, but at least his other picks seemingly have strong Republican backing in the Senate. Gaetz made the right decision, and now it's back to the drawing board. But make no mistake, this was strategic, a masterclass in the art of the deal. I'm Tomi Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tomi Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
All the information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. They keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis's #1 for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company right here on News Talk STL. Crane Durham, guest hosting for the great Tony Colombo, the brother who I always hug. Yes, love him like a brother. It's true. And I know you all love him too, because he's real. He's talking to you. He's not talking above you or down to you or even up to you. He's talking with you. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's why talk radio succeeds. Okay. Because it can be held accountable for many reasons, including the ratings, but it is about that connection. Speaking of connections, last hour, we talked a lot about things of transgenderism with the producer and co-host of the Vic Porcelli Show, Ken Williams, and Gabe Pfeiffer. That's right. Co-host of Mike Ferguson in the Morning. And it was a great discussion. Now, sometimes you might think I exaggerate, but I don't have to. When we were talking about transgenderism, people have actually accused people who want men out of women's bathrooms, okay? Men out of women's bathrooms as being Nazi-like. Well, roll it.
Donald Trump himself said that he wants to make biological sex the law of the land, and that is assigned at birth, and that is binary. This is what Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, has basically also asserted. This has never been about the children. It's been about scapegoating trans people, eradicating us from public life, as Matt Knowles will say, and what Michael Knowles, yeah, that's his name, Michael Knowles. And I think the most important thing for us to remember as trans people, and then as people in general, is that when we dehumanize people, we dehumanize ourselves. And I want to say what Brene Brown says about dehumanization. She defines dehumanization as moving a particular group of people into a place of moral exclusion. And she uses that phrase, moral exclusion, because we as human beings are not hardwired to harm each other. We have empathy and we love each other. But if a group of people is rendered subhuman, the Nazis used the term Untermenschen, subhuman, then we can take away their rights. Then we can abuse them.
Okay, I got it. No, you just have a problem with the truth. And obviously we pray for people with this mental condition and hope for the best in that way. We just don't want children being butchered, and we don't want the state to make decisions over the parents when it comes to the identification of their child, and understanding that we're talking about a mental illness. So sex is binary. That's not Nazism. I hope that that person can find the help that he needs. That said, that was CNN in a debate between Michael Knowles of the Daily Wire and this guest. And you get that stuff from CNN. It's kind of wacky. And good news is they had somebody like Michael Knowles there. Here's the good news about News Talk STL. When we talk about things, we get the very best experts in their field to come on and explain it to the rest of us. And it helps inform our opinions. And somebody who does that quite well is on the line with us right now. And his name is Dr. James S. Robbins. He is the Dean of Academics at the Institute for World Politics. He is also an author, and his latest piece is Reagan's 9 Lessons for Trump in Pursuing Peace Through Strength. Jim, great to be with you.
Hey, Crane. Great to be here.
Yes. Well, this really is something that caught my eye because I love Reagan. I'm a Reagan lover. And yeah, I disagree with him on certain things too. Just for the record, people think we deify people. No, we can have minor disagreements on things, but he won the Cold War. Wasn't Gorbachev. He won the Cold War. Gorbachev was still a communist when he died. All right. I have to make that point every time. When you talk about Ronald Reagan, peace through strength, that inevitably won the Cold War, what are you seeing that lens? How do you apply that lens today when we are dealing with, say, Israel and Ukraine, allies of ours? We have a commitment to the Ukraine with the Budapest Memorandum. With Israel, we have commitments, and they're the one thing right with the Middle East, and yet we don't have policies reflecting the idea of peace through strength when it comes to both of those allies and our approach to them. Your thoughts?
Well, right. With Reagan, he came out of or when he became president, the U.S. was coming out of this period when we had lost in Vietnam. Communism was on the march around the world. We had economic dislocations, high inflation, low respect around the world. The hollow forces of the post-Vietnam era when, the military was built down, and it was difficult. So Reagan revamped all that, restored pride in America, did a military buildup, but not just military, but also in diplomacy, also in the war on ideas, the war of ideas on bad ideas, and built up this method of fighting the Cold War to win, because as he told Richard Allen, his first national security advisor, his theory of the Cold War was we win, they lose. And so that's what he pursued. And his objective was to win the Cold War without making it a hot war. That is, drive communism into the dustbin of history without going to a shooting war or a nuclear war or something bad like that. And he accomplished it through restoring our pride, restoring our economy, and restoring American leadership. So I think that in the current situation, with all this chaos around the world and the problems that we're facing, we have a great opportunity for Donald Trump to use the same lessons of the Reagan era to restore American leadership around the world and settle down the things that are happening.
And in settling down the things that are happening, obviously, we go to the policies. And let's begin with Israel. What we saw with Israel was this is terrible, but it was a politics trumped right and wrong. Okay, no pun intended. But this is what happened. Democratic Party saw an Islamist community in Michigan and played into or softballed our support for Israel and downright acted as Hamas propagandists against our ally in a war that is clear, black and white, no doubt about it. So how will he differentiate himself from the previous administration? And does that reflect President Reagan's legacy?
It's ironic that the Harris campaign did all that pandering and also President Biden to that constituency. And then Donald Trump wound up making great inroads in that constituency because those people understand that peace is the objective in that region, not pandering. And the sooner the fighting stops, the better it is for everybody. So, I just found that ironic that Donald Trump, incredibly raised the proportion of that vote that he won, but talking sense to people, not pandering. So with respect to what Israel can do, they have to finish the war. So it means allowing them to do what they need to do to end it. It was very instructive that when the Biden administration got Israel to stop, to have a pause in their offensive before going into Rafah in Gaza, which was kind of like the last holdout for Hamas. And they had to go, okay, they convinced the Israelis to stop by threatening them. we'll withhold aid or some other political thing. And why was that? Because the whole left wing was going crazy over, all eyes on Rafah and don't go in there. Well, that's where the Hamas leadership was hiding. That's where ultimately they found them. And it was months later than it would have been if Israel had just gone ahead and done it. And so that shows the nature of the current policy, which is de-escalate, try to not have the fighting be so intense and stuff like that. But the fact is, in a war, if you keep holding back, it's just going to continue. The war will just continue. You need to settle things. We saw that also with the Houthis, for example, where they're starting to sink ships in the Red Sea, and the Biden administration said, "Hey, we don't want to war with you." They literally said that. We don't want to go to war with you. Really? Because they're firing missiles at our ships. And so they did these little pinprick attacks on the Houthis, and they just kept escalating. And that situation only got under control when the Israelis jumped in and started bombing them, because the Israelis weren't holding back, and they started taking out the oil infrastructure and their, command infrastructure and things like that. So I think with the Trump administration, we're going to see more of like what he did with ISIS in the Middle East. Because remember, that came as a result of Obama policies. Obama said, well, it's established. It's going to take years to clean that out. We don't want to put troops in and whatnot. Well, Trump just sent in our special forces, took out their leadership, took out their finances, and now we don't have a caliphate anymore. So I think we're going to see that. It's going to be a limited use of force, but a determined use of force when it needs to be used.
And so, bottom line, when President Trump speaks, he is believed. They believe the threat. They know he's not going to softball it or massage it and make it something that, or mollify it in some way in the support. And that's one of the problems that we've had in the war with Israel. And I think it's a problem in all wars, but particularly Israel and the Jews, is the idea of people making these statements about them, conspiracy theories, blaming them for things that the terrorists are actually perpetrating and allowing for, and that would be the killing of civilians. And so do you think that the fact that you mentioned Qatar has ejected Hamas leadership in your article, we can point to actions taken by both our allies. You've mentioned Mexico has stopped migrants at the U.S. border. I mean, that's a huge deal. But I get the idea that when we talk about Donald Trump, you have this Reagan feeling that this guy means what he says, and there will be the payback.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's amazing to see what's happened already, and the man isn't even in office yet. That's the incredible thing about this Trump effect, because they've seen him in office before. They know he's coming back. And so, for example, Qatar, they were playing host to the Hamas leadership and, giving them luxury suites to hang out in and just really, taking care of the Hamas people. And now with Trump coming back, they're like, okay, Hamas, you're out. They ejected them. Like, you got to get out of here, because they don't want to be on the wrong side of what's coming. And Hamas is now, begging for a ceasefire. They're begging for peace because they know that hard times are coming for them. And it gets back to credibility. Like you said, they know that Trump is coming in with an agenda. He wants to clean up the mess that the Biden administration, left for him. And he's going to be getting right on that. And they look at the people he's picking for, defense and for Secretary of State. I mean, these are serious people. And stuff is going to get done. So to the extent that countries that have a problem with us are getting ahead of it, they're trying to. I mean, even see Vladimir Putin saying, hey, I'll take a ceasefire. That'd be great. Well, okay. They know that Trump is serious. That's the bottom line.
And dictators don't offer ceasefires unless they look at the cost of continuing their behavior and their continued aggression, that it's too heavy of a price to pay. And that's what Trump represents. Yes?
Absolutely. With the Biden administration, you had what I call it conflict management. Like in every single conflict, they didn't approach it from a standpoint of how do we win this? What does victory look like? How do we stop it and make the bad guys pay a cost? The whole Biden model was, let's not escalate this. And they would state it explicitly. We don't want escalation. We don't want a wider war, whatever the thing was. And that's fine, except you're handing the initiative to the other side. When you say you don't want escalation, then the other side can say, good, so then it's our choice whether or not we make it more intense, because you just said you're not going to escalate it. I think with Donald Trump, you're getting a much different model. It's based on how do we win this, or how do we make it get settled to our advantage, not whether or not it's escalated. I mean, I guess in some cases you don't necessarily need to escalate the use of force or whatever you're using to try to settle the situation. But with Trump, they know that it's a definite possibility. So they're going to think twice about it.
One of the things that prevents people from getting support politically from the bad ideas of the left is a noise machine, a machine that makes the issue not the issue, and their constituencies. I mentioned earlier Islamists in Michigan. I am talking not about all Muslims there. I'm talking about anti-Israel, Hamas radical elements supporting the Hamas and Israel's enemies, and being anti-Israel, but not only that, anti-American. And I'm thinking to myself, when we see the landscape across the United States, we know that the right position, and it's right because it's true, is to support Israel. She is our greatest ally, not only in the region, but in the world. And I think to myself, how on earth does this ever become a question where we actually have senators voting in the realm of and considering cutting off military aid to our ally while they are fighting a terrorist organization? So what do we need to do here to change the calculation?
Well, I think just Trump coming back into office is going to change it quite a bit, because those politicians who could talk about those things were being enabled by an administration that was showing that they were kind of straddling on Israel, that they weren't 100% in Israel's corner. They'd say one thing and then do another thing. You had people in the Biden administration at senior levels who really were not friends of Israel, who, you know, maybe, I don't want to say they were pro-terrorism, but they definitely weren't backing Israel to the hilt. And it was ironic to me, or just maybe even amusing, that during the campaign, you had the Harris team trying to argue that Donald Trump wasn't really a good friend of Israel. I mean, that's absolutely absurd when you look at the great relationship he had with Netanyahu, when you look at him moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, his visits to Israel and so forth. You know, Trump and Israel are going to get along fine. So I think that alone is going to kind of push back the politicians who want to come out against Israel. There'll still be the squad and these kind of people who do it, but they just won't have, you know, the ear of the White House anymore.
And tell me, what about organizations like the International Criminal Court going after Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, and other Israeli leaders, and basically putting out a warrant, if you will, charging them with war crimes, etc. What do we do about those institutions, and also institutions that have actually been used to support the acts on October 7th? We remember these things. The United Nations. What would you like to see happen in the next 4 years?
Well, I think there's going to be a reckoning with some of those organizations. I mean, UNRWA, the United Nations relief organization that was cooperating with Hamas and Gaza. I mean, I think they're done for. They're just not going to be anymore. And if the UN wants to keep it up, I think Donald Trump has shown that he is more than willing to withdraw funds from the UN, to pull the United States back from different UN agencies, and doing whatever it takes to coerce the UN into doing the right thing. With respect to the ICC, the United States does not recognize the jurisdiction of that court. We are not a signatory to that in a way that, because we wouldn't want them to do that to us, and you know that they would. They would start putting, U.S. leaders under their sham indictments. So fine, I mean, go ahead and do it, but they're going to pay a price too. And they just have to realize that they can't do this like moral equivalence and say, we're gonna indict the Prime Minister of Israel and the Defense Minister of Israel, and also some Hamas leaders. They only put the Hamas leaders in there because they feel that they have to politically, when in fact the Hamas leaders, I mean, there's a terrorist. They're the only ones who should be indicted. The only ones who should be charged with war crimes. But they only use that as a fig leaf because the people they really want to go after are the Israelis. Well, good luck.
Yeah, the good luck is right, because Israel has been extraordinary, especially when they stopped listening to the Biden administration and were able to fight and truly, maybe they'll let them win the war this time. Final question for you. Is Israel winning the war? Is that regime change in Iran?
Oh, definitely. I mean, that regime change in Iran would be a victory for everybody, not just for Israel. Iran is behind all this, whether it's the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, the militias in Iraq, the stuff going on in Syria. This all gets tracked back to Iran. And so really the end game has to be that somehow the theocratic, totalitarian Islamist regime in Iran goes away and we get back to something more like we had with the Shah, something much more favorable to Western interests, but especially favorable to stability in that region. So to the extent that that can happen, I think it's great. If Donald Trump is going to get focused on that and start supporting the internal resistance groups and the popular uprisings in Iran, I think that would be fantastic.
You just heard Dean of Academics at the Institute for World Politics. There's a much bigger section of the resume that I could read, but he is absolutely learned scholar on these issues, and I've known him for years, and he just delivers every time. He educates me, even on Ronald Reagan, which I thought I knew a lot about Ronald Reagan, and maybe even I do, but the Reagan's 9 lessons for Trump and pursuing peace through strength is an outstanding read, even if you know about Reagan and you understand Reagan. It's fantastic. And Dr. James S. Robbins, we appreciate you taking the time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Crane.
Great. All right. So that was Dr. James S. Robbins. I've interviewed him on his books, etc. And you really appreciate people in the know. And when those people in the know get an opportunity to talk to people that are ideologically on a different side, it is fascinating and it's fantastic and it's great for America. It's what we're all about. And it reminds me of like the old Crossfires that you watch every now and then. Okay, what's coming up? We're going to do a weekly wrap here. You're actually going to rap? Yes, I'm going to rap. No, Crane Durham does not rap, but he does guest host for Tony Colombo, his good friend, on Colombo Company. And we'll be back on the flip side. News Talk STL, Colombo Company.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
place to talk. News Talk STL.
Tim Jones here for Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. They've helped me recover from day-to-day aches and pains for years. And here's something special: personal training programs. Whether you're an athlete committed to increasing performance, recovering from an injury, or just want to get healthier and lose weight, their personal training programs will help you reach your goals and stay there. Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka, online at cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
One day Matt Gaetz is on top, the talk of the town. Now he's out, but still the talk of the town and the nation. Yesterday, Matt Gaetz withdrew as Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General, saying, "I don't want to be a distraction for the incoming administration." Trump thanked him. And of course, Trump has to admit he's got to look for someone else. There was already a lot of baggage around Gaetz, allegations of sex with a minor. The AG's office under Merrick Garland, using the FBI, looked into it. They found nothing to prosecute. The House Ethics Committee looked at it, didn't find anything that they could really release. But now there's sources saying that a second woman was involved, an adult woman, with the 17-year-old in a second encounter. Now, that might be where it stopped at he said, she said, and more evidence, and Gates couldn't deal with it. CNN senior political commentator Scott Jennings said, there are a lot of people who could do the job that Trump wants, but there's no doubt Trump was deeply involved in Gates. And Jennings added, Trump went out on a limb by choosing Gates, and that limb, it got sawed off pretty quickly.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
The Cafe Napoli family is adding another great place for you to enjoy. Where? Well, first, let me remind you, you have the original Cafe Napoli, downtown Clayton. Napoli 2, Town and Country. Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C. Plus, Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the Chesterfield Valley. And opening soon, Napoli Kirkwood, right downtown Kirkwood Road. Napoli Kirkwood. Wellington Environmental knows that many are struggling this time of year. Wellington is an advisor to the Salvation Army Gateway Citadel, and they have a way to get more people involved. Bell ringers are really needed, and they have some great spots open in South County. Wellington will help schedule for you. So if you can give an hour, maybe two, this Christmas season, ringing a bell is fun and uplifting. You sign up 6 or more to ring for an hour, Wellington Environmental will make a customized sign on top of the bell, and you can put your family name, your team, your company, all for free. Great opportunity to help out others this Christmas. Contact Wellington, 314-644-4930, 644-4930, or wellingtonstl.com. I want you to know that McGuire Moving and Storage is silver certified, which means McGuire has a quality reputation helping older adults move local or long distance. And something else to know, Josh McGuire, president of McGuire Moving and Storage, is the only certified moving consultant in Missouri. I'll tell you, once you met Josh, you're going to know your move will be easy. And I fully endorse McGuire Moving and Storage. McGuireMoving.com.
Hey there, Chris Cooper here. Join me every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL for a little fun with finance. We'll talk about taxes, the economy, finance, and most importantly, how to enjoy the lifestyle you deserve.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Tune in on Sunday and visit serenitynowtax.com for your free copy of my book, The New Holistic Retirement. That's serenitynowtax.com.
Serenity Now! John Beal knows that right after a hailstorm, new roofing companies start popping up everywhere. But the Small Business Administration reports 96% of them go out of business within the first 5 years. So how good is that warranty? John Beal started in the roofing business, helping his granddad and his dad. Always offering the best roof, best price, best guarantee. John Beal Roofing, not some fly-by-the-night operation. Call my friend John, 1-800-NEW-ROOF, 1-800-NEW-ROOF.
Danny Define here, host of the all-new show, The Next Gen, with me, Danny Define. We're going to cover all the hard-hitting topics on this show, from national headlines to things happening right here in St. Louis.
Next Gen with Danny Define, Sunday nights at 8.
Right here on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Company. Crane Durham guest hosting for Tony Colombo, my brother. Do I say my brother? My brother. My brother. Yes. Brothers in truth. That's right. Tony Colombo, not only a great host, and obviously you listen to his show, you know how good he is, and he can do pretty much anything because he's been in every area of radio and knows it backwards and forwards. Humble guy, though. So I got to say these things. You know, I'm going to point these things out. That's what a brother does, right? Okay. Anyway, Crane Durham guest hosting, and it's been wonderful to be able to be with you today on News Talk STL. Had a great conversation with the co-host of the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show, Gabe Pfeiffer. If you're checking out the podcast, maybe you missed a little. And Ken Williams, of co-host and producer of the Vic Porcelli Show. And we talked about a whole host of things, including the transgender movement and what happened in the election. And I'm always fascinated with how bad policies remain for decades. I just don't get it. And I get it and I don't get it. And I give you the issue of crime, for example. Crime is up. We know this. We know that the gamesmanship played with statistics. And we also know the Soros effect on prosecutors not enforcing the law, getting rid of no cash bail. So you have these situations where criminals commit a heinous act and they get back on the street. And I think to myself, why would you ever live in a place where your own leadership won't protect you? That's their number one job, the government. And they won't protect you. And it takes a relatively, I think it's quite slow. Oftentimes it takes the person in power or the people to be directly impacted by getting mugged by reality. And that's something that happened, I believe, with Alvin Bragg. And I don't wish this upon anybody, but his office, a member of his office was mugged. And I don't know exactly what the crime is. I don't have it before me. My point is that was something that hit closer to home. And then it got me thinking about illegal immigration and what has taken place over the last 4 years. But I've covered this from 2000 on. And the recent story that we have of a testimony of a young lady who was murdered by somebody who should not have been here. Actually, it was moved with taxpayer money from one city to another. And Laken Riley, as we are looking at this young lady who's dead, and I don't know if you had an opportunity to hear the letter that she wrote her future husband, but I don't know how you watch that and not well up. And it's not because of the mere emotion, but that's a part of it. The reason it's emotional is because it's real. It's not a statistic. You also have footage of them learning about their daughter's death, their daughter's murder, police footage of that. And I think to myself that people have been being impacted by illegal immigration in horrific ways for some time. And why on earth did it take this long where people said, hey, enough, we're going to bring in Donald Trump? And I'm even talking 2016. They didn't know if Trump would follow through. He did follow through. He did the best job he could in the time that he had. And we have an entire presidency, entire term of Biden-Harris reversing policies not based on the effectiveness of the policy or the failure of the policy, but rather because Orange Man bad, Trump, it was Trump's policy, and that led to death. It led to the murders of people who never should have been in this country, supposedly vetted. Yeah. And so as you're digesting all of this, remember when we're talking about policy, I think you all get this. As a matter of fact, I know you all get this. When we're talking about policy, we're not talking about mere numbers or statistics or fluctuations and the idea that somehow this is an ongoing problem and we can't do anything about it. We're talking about things we can do something about. And when we are informed about the issue, imagine if we did have a news media that was dedicated to covering this case. I think CNN covered it for 2 minutes, according to the Media Research Center, and others didn't cover it at all. But imagine if it was night after night of the news, and you saw this because it was that important. The prosecution of this thug, this murderer. Imagine that. Imagine if when we talked about crime, we also informed people to say, hey, you know what? If you lock people away, because recidivism rates are so high, if you lock them away and you get truth in sentencing, you take a good portion of them off the street, you'll lower crime if you follow through. Imagine if we talked about the stay in Mexico policy, remain in Mexico policy, and how effective that was. But you know what we talked about when it comes to illegal immigration? We talked about the fact that somehow it was bigoted, racist. It was against brown people, and they're going to ask you for your papers. And then we talked about the children in cages. That was Obama, by the way, but it was to separate people because we didn't know and couldn't verify if they were the actual parents. So there's a lot of stuff going on here, but every time we talk about these things, we talk about the problem is not the enforcement of our laws. The problem is incentivizing human trafficking, and then once they're here, not holding them to account because they never should have been here in the first place. But we weakened asylum qualifications as well. So you come here and you're seeking asylum and they lower the threshold and then they wait for their actual hearing and then they disappear. And we actually have people in cities, even after the election, who are saying they're not going to help. They're going to oppose the enforcement of rounding up the illegal immigrants. And they're going to start with the most violent. I think that sounds great. I think it makes sense. I don't understand how there ever could be an issue about this, because you're talking about saving lives and enforcing our law. And when I hear people talk about an ism or an obia, it's been deflection from day one. And it gets us away from solving our problems. Let's solve our problems, not just talk about them. Crane Durham, guest host of Colombo Company. I appreciate you being with us. Live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, and always keep the faith. Check Crane Durham's Facebook page as well as Instagram and nothingbuttruth.com. Thank you. News Talk STL.
Looking for top quality tactical gear and expert advice? Look no further than Discount Tactical, your one-stop shop for all things firearms and self-defense. Located in the heart of Warrenton, we've been serving the community for 3 years with our friendly, professional, and knowledgeable staff. From custom AR builds and silencers to the largest selection of parts, we've got you covered. Self-defense weapons, SBRs, knives, ammo, custom holsters, weapon lights, optics, and body armor. Discount Tactical. Online at discounttacticalarmory.com or stop by today and gear up with confidence.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Need reliable auto service from people you can trust? Look no further than Western Tire and Auto. For over 15 years, we've been your complete automotive repair center, family owned and operated, with owner Dean Kleethermes bringing 30 years of industry experience. At Western Tire and Auto, you're not just a customer, you're family. We promise 100% satisfaction, treating you with the transparency, respect, and honesty you deserve. Visit us in St. Peters or in Florissant. For appointments, call or check westerntireauto.com. Western Tire and Auto, your local automotive experts since 2008.
Remember those magical moments in Mom's kitchen? The heavenly aroma of